paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, that's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
Well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery. We have a very special episode for you today, and we are going to start with some hard-hitting finance. If you made it through the intro of all the bits last week, fear not, we're starting hard with the finance. This post comes to you from one Peter Atkinson, one of the original founders of Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering in 1993. Almost 30 years ago. All right, here we go. For quite some time, Magic players...
No, Alpha was 1993, so it was 20 years. Holy shit. Oh, no. Oh, no.
I won't lie, I had to do the math in my head just because it sounded so weird.
Oh, no. Oh, geez. I've been playing since 96.
That's right. Well, here's what Peter Atkinson has to say. For quite some time, Magic players, especially collectors, have wondered what the official print run sizes were for various Magic sets, especially Alpha and Beta. During my time at WotC, we never disclosed this information, although we hinted at it. At one time, we said the combined print runs were around 10 million cards. But around 10 million isn't very precise, and it doesn't say anything about the relative quantities. He goes on to recount, basically he went back into the archives, he dug up some of his people from back then, blah, blah, blah. We got some definitive numbers.
I thought you were gonna read the entire post.
I am not. However, we have some definitive
son
numbers
of Atkins. Here. I don't know. I'm not helping.
The Alpha print run for Magic the Gathering was 26,060 card starter decks and 70,000 15-card boosters, which would equate to 2.61 million cards. The Beta run was 78,000 starter decks and 210,000 boosters for 7.83 million. Adding Alpha and Beta together, we get to 10.44 million cards for the limited edition of Magic. During doing some fun math, this means there were about 1,008 Alpha Black Lotuses printed. The previous estimate was 1,100. So, this is crazy to me that, this is just wild to me. Peter Atkinson just posted this as a public post on Facebook. It was shared across the internet. I found it when Ben Bleiweiss, the lead pricer and buyer at Star City, tweeted about it. This is somebody who was there from the very beginning, and this has been a closely guarded secret for the 28-year existence of Wizards of the Coast. It's crazy to me that somebody who was there at the time just decided to make a Facebook post and give the information out. At the end of the day, it means nothing to most of us, right? We're not all sitting on Alpha Black Lotuses, and we now know they're 10% more rare than previously thought. But this is just, this is a piece of Magic finance history here, because figuring out the print run numbers for those early sets is something that people have been asking about and talking about ever since I started playing the game. I mean, think about how many Alpha Black Lotuses there are in the world. If there were 1,008 of them printed, how many of them got thrown in the trash? I mean, maybe not very many. How many of them got played on concrete?
People played Iron Man Magic, where if a card went to your graveyard, you ripped it up. If even one Alpha Black Lotus got ripped up, that's too many.
Right.
Yeah. I've had more than 1,008 people come up to me at a GP and say they used to own every person who has ever sold cards to me is like, oh yeah, I used to own 16 Alpha Black Lotuses, and then either A, my girlfriend threw them in the snow, or B, my uncle conned me out of them. There's just every story ever, and then the best part is that the next person who sits down is always the person who was on the other end of that event.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always oh yeah, my girlfriend threw all my cards away, man, it was rough. And then the next person that sits down is oh yeah, I threw all my boyfriend's cards away, they were a terrible person.
And then third person is, I found these in the snow.
Yes. And you know what, I managed to dry them out, it all worked out fine.
I mean, maybe everyone just passed around their Alpha Black Lotuses to each other's uncles, right? Somebody was everybody's uncle.
It's just a chain of people's girlfriends giving cards to someone's uncle.
Yeah, it is an interesting thought experiment, though, right? The idea of there were 1,008 that started with. How many were torn up on concrete?
I have nephews.
Away? How many are still in a box?
That I can someday con my nephews out of Magic cards. That would be, or like whatever the equivalent is, right? Like, why have a nephew otherwise?
Jeweled Lotus. Get the Jeweled Lotus.
Well, you have to con them out of their NFTs. That's the new thing.
That is the new thing.
You have to con them out of their JPEGs.
I don't fully understand what an NFT is, but
I know what pegging is, and I don't think it's appropriate for this podcast, so... I'm assuming a JPEG is like it has to do with a pillow that looks.
Well, I was gonna say it has to do with you and your wife because that's a JPEG.
Oh, because my first initial is J. Okay.
Wow.
But she doesn't call me J. She calls me Worm when I'm getting pegged. So like your whole joke doesn't even make sense. Unless it was tricking me into telling on myself, in which case.
Don't you feel silly now, DJ?
Yeah.
He got you.
You stupid idiot.
I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. My take is that there were probably... I don't think that many people destroyed their Black Lotuses and threw them in the trash. I don't think they got handed out at Gen Con in 1993 and people were like, what? Like, look at this. I'm going to name drop a couple games here. Look at Flesh and Blood. How crazy people are going for the pre-release. There's some new Dragon Ball Z, maybe, or there's some new Digimon card game. The prices are going crazy. People understand that cards are worth money, and that was true in 1993. Very few people at Gen Con threw it away.
It wasn't. It was not true in 1993. Like,
it wasn't true. Look,
people talking about pulling like power out of the trash is a little bit exaggerated, but. When Jim Brusso said he was pulling Magic card packs out of the trash at Gen Con because everybody got a pack when they walked in, I believe him.
Look, I believe that it is true that those packs were, like you said, I think in the trash can is probably exaggerated. The point is, I don't personally think that there were 100 Black Lotuses thrown out at Gen Con in 1993.
I also didn't hold on to my Zatch Bell cards that I got for free in 2005. Like, not everybody's like, oh, every card game is... Like, there's so many card games that have come and gone that I just like. What was that? Kaijudo? Like, how much free Kaijudo shit did I get? Like, I got just dozens of packs. I was going through the line again and again at Origins, and they were just giving us a ton of stuff. Jerry T was hyping Kaijudo, and then Wizards is like, we hate Kaijudo now. All my homies hate Kaijudo, and that stuff is literal dirt now. So that was something in the last 5 years. So I don't think you can tell me that, like, oh, there's no way people threw shit away in 93 when there had never been a successful card game beyond, like, poker.
Can we be a Zatch Bell podcast now?
I would love to be a Zatch Bell podcast. That game mechanics were sweet. You put your cards in a spell book, and you had to play them in the order you put them in your spell book. That was amazing.
Oh, I just like watched the show as a kid, and you saying those two words unlocked like a part of my brain that had been forever hidden away for the past 15 years. So like I'm down. Like
I'm just picturing DJ like watching Zatch Bell, and then he hears his parents fighting, and he just turns the volume up and starts rocking out more to the Zatch Bell theme song, which I don't know, but like. Wasn't that like wasn't Zatch Bell about a creepy ventriloquist dummy or something, or was that?
Yeah,
Goosebumps?
It was. They had dolls that came from effectively hell, but it wasn't hell because it was a 4-kid show. And like they had to control them with the spell books, and they like learned different spells, and it was sort of like it was like Pokemon Battle, but with creepy marionettes. Yeah.
I tried to get my daughter to watch Card Captor Sakura, and she was not into it. I've never seen it, so I was like, let's watch this together. And she's like, this chugs balls. And I've never heard her say that before, and I was kind of proud. But maybe I said that, actually. I think I'm the one that said this show chugs balls.
Yeah,
but like,
you think?
Sorry if you like Card Captor Sakura. It's not for me or a 5-year-old girl, so who's it for? We're the two kinds of people.
Well, there you go, everybody. If you were interested in a little bit of Magic history... If you have an alpha rare, there are probably 1,000 of it that exist. So that's a high number, right? That's the high end. So
Sven Boyle can calculate just what percentage of all the alpha Elvish archers he owns. Then Like 2% maybe, or 3%. Good on him.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, I'm going to give you something to calculate. It's time for Breaking Bulk.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
Oh, goodness. That was sloppy. Oh, boy.
That's fine. This is
That
a
was
sloppy
a bummer.
podcast.
That was a sloppy handoff.
I'm gonna start it off hot here. A Theros Beyond Death Black Uncommon.
Is it Gray Merchant?
Nope. That card's actually like barely a pick.
I know, which is why I thought you'd pick it.
Ooh!
This card is 75 cents.
Got him.
75-cent uncommon from Theros Beyond Death.
It's got to be some kind of like generic blood artist effect in that set, right? Like every black uncommon that's worth $1 is some kind of blood artist-esque effect.
No, it is not a creature. Nope. It's an instant.
Oh, goodness.
It has escape.
I'm going to escape from this podcast.
This is not an EDH card. This is not an EDH card, so I don't know what it is. Because, like, I was thinking maybe it was like Mire Triton?
Nope. That's a good guess. But that is not it. If you all are officially giving up, it's not an EDH card, but it's actually not a terrible EDH card if you were to play it.
F6.
Cling to Dust.
Cling to Dust is the least played card in the whole set.
It's a 1 black instant, exile a target card from a graveyard. If it's a creature card, you gain 3 life. Otherwise, you draw a card. You can escape it for 4 mana, exiling 5 other cards from your graveyard. So this was sort of it's nice and constructed because it most of the time will just cycle. Except if you need to hit an escape creature, it does that as well. And then it's card advantage the second time around when you escape it. So the card's actually climbed from bulk to 75 cents over the past year, and it's a very solid pick. I don't, know if it will still continue to be that for long into the future, right?
All right.
It's still in standard, but
if you're bringing my kryptonite of cards that I have not gotten to pick during my quarantine, then I will go with a Stronghold rare. Yeah. How do you like that? How does it feel?
What's the price on it? Because
like
it's either
$1.50-ish.
$35 or like if it's $1, then it's
It's like $1.50.
So it's not on the reserve list. What color?
It is an artifact.
Portcullis.
No. It's a rare Stronghold artifact that I don't believe has any reprints.
Portcullis is a rare Stronghold artifact. What else is there? Bullwhip?
No, is that a rare?
Yeah, I don't know, man. The expansion symbols are the same color for every rarity in Stronghold. I don't know what Bullwhip is. I just know that I got in a pack one time, and I was like, this better not awaken anything in me.
I couldn't even name 5 Stronghold rares for you. Anything that's that old, I pull it all out.
It has slowly climbed from bulk rare status to $1.50-ish over the past year or two.
Goodness.
It's all you, Jason. F6. I was F6ing, but I named F6.
2. There are probably 4 or 5 Stronghold artifacts that are rare, and I named 2 of them, and that's pretty good, but I didn't nail it yet.
That is more than most people would guess. Sword of the Chosen is a 2-mana artifact, legendary artifact. Target legend gets +2/+2 till end of turn.
I thought that was Tempest. It's got Selenia on it, right?
It's got Selenia in the flavor text. 1 shard of Selenia yet remained.
So I thought it was Tempest. All right, that's fine.
Is that her sword? I'm looking at I can't tell if it's her sword or not. It doesn't look like it, but I don't know. Sword of the Chosen, everyone. It's $1.50. You don't get Stronghold bulk very often. Corbin's Stronghold bulk is too filled with like ensnaring bridges and Volrath strongholds for him to notice petty cards like this one. But when you go through your Stronghold bulk, you will likely find Sword of the Chosen because it does not have a gold set symbol.
The set symbol thing is, I'm going to be on. Seriously, when I hit those sets, I don't know them super well outside of, some of the more obvious ones. So I actually just pull them all back because I don't even know what's a rare and what's an uncommon on those. Those are cards
nobody does, and that's why seen. Here's a finance pro tip you might not know. People hate it if they buy bulk rares. If they catch you, they will not let you sell them bulk rares that don't have a colored set symbol, because then they put them in a things like, hey, you get 25 rares, and people are like, this only has 24 rares, because there was an Implements of Sacrifice or some stupid Homelands rare, and everyone's like, this doesn't look rare, and it doesn't. Life Lace doesn't look rare, and there's nothing on the card Life Lace to make you think it was a rare as recently as 4th edition.
As recently as 4th edition. I like that. Yeah, sure.
There is nothing on that card that makes so they don't want Life Lace.
1995 copyright date,
Web.
By the way.
They don't want Iron Claw Curse from 5th edition. People that buy bulk rares do not want rares that don't have the colored set symbol, because when they package them and it's like, here's a collection with rares in it, people don't see that as rare and they get upset. So they don't want to pass that on. So if it's not on the reserve list and it's just a trash rare and it's not played in anything, that stuff is going to be trash forever. Even as Mirage bulk rares on the reserve list are cresting $10 just on the basis of being on. Oh, we're never going to get another Leering Gargoyle because it's on the reserve list, guys. So, if it's not on the reserve list and it doesn't have the colored set symbol and it's not played in anything, it's just going to be trash forever. And it's going to suck when it starts getting lapped by $25 completely useless bulk rares. I made fun of a dude because he told me 3 years ago his friends were going to buy all the Catacomb Dragons. I was like, whatever, idiot. Now they're $12. I was like, all right, cool, you did it. You bought all the Catacomb Dragons.
Now you still own all the Catacomb Dragons.
Yep.
Regardless of
$12
what the price is.
now. What's the buy list? 75 cents? Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, now pay your rent with them.
Yeah, exactly. I actually want to circle back around to the idea of what to do with some of those rares. But Jason,
I want to circle back around to my breaking bulk pick.
Let's hear your breaking bulk first.
I don't want to do it now. The moment's passed. I'm not in the mood anymore. All right. Mine has 2 printings, and they were both not unrecent. The first one was Journey into Nyx, and it was reprinted in a commander set, and this is a green uncommon.
It's the double counters with Strive. It's got a Johnny Elspeth on it.
Solidarity of Heroes.
Yeah.
Was reprinted in Commander 2016 and originally in Journey into Nyx. This is a damn dollar for a card that was in a Commander anthology. So this is 2.2 printings, let's call it, right? This is 2.2 printings and it's still a damn dollar just because you double the number of counters.
I played this in Skullbriar during the 3 weeks I had that deck together, and this card was a reason that a lot of people died to that deck on turn 4 or 5, and then I took that deck apart because it's not fun to just one-shot people with your 60 power commander that has haste and costs 2 mana, so
yeah.
Oh, it's not?
Solidarity.
It's not.
Okay.
Solidarity of Heroes is an interesting one because Journey into Nyx, I think, does not have a ton of great... It's got some picks, but it wasn't a particularly, well looked upon set. And all these other Strive cards, I think, are basically worthless. This card is probably worth more than Launch the Fleet, which I believe was a rare.
By Strive, you mean multi-kicker, right?
Everything's kicker. It all came full circle.
Circling back around to bulk rares, I was looking through cards today and sorting, and I just made a big bulk rare pile, and then I just took them, and I do what I do with all of them, and I threw them in my box. And I want you all to think about this. If you fill a 5-row box with bulk rares, true bulk, right? 50 cents and below that isn't going to buy a list for more than maybe 7 cents or whatever, right? If it is at all. You can get basically 1,200-ish cards in one of those rows. So maybe 6,000 Magic cards in a 5-row.
Mm-hmm.
It's 7K.
It's 7K?
Mm-hmm.
You get up to 14? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 7,000 bulk rares in a box. I have more than one 5-row filled. So I've probably got $8,000 or $9,000 bulk rares. Just think about that. Just think about that. One box of 5 rows full of bulk rares, 7,000 times 4. That's $28,000 that people spent to open those bulk rares.
Yeah.
That's crazy math.
Yep.
So
I brought back at Indy when we did that party, I brought a ton of bulk rares. I think I brought like 35,000 bulk rares to Channel Fireball and just like dropped them off on like a pallet like thing.
And they took them.
This is
that's what I want to talk about.
$500,000 worth of broken dreams. Everybody, this is everyone's like, oh boy, I hope I open a Mox Diamond. Oh, it's Sword of the Chosen.
I mean, so what do you all do with your bulk rares if you? Do stores typically buy them at a price worth moving? What are some of the options for getting rid of them if you've been flipping collections and now have 1,000 bulk rares?
So this is all of the context for this answer is pre-pandemic. Like, just assume COVID doesn't exist and you're actually happy this year. So
why am I inside?
The main thing, the main thing I did is to pick them very thoroughly and make sure that there are no $1-esque cards in there that would sneak by, because those are very good margin cards, especially when you buy bulk rares for 10 cents or 5 cents or 8 cents or whatever, and then you pull a $1.50 bulk rare out of there. As long as you know what you're doing and you're efficient with it, that is a very efficient use of your time. So assuming they're all true bulk, you can either seed them into instant collections and sell them locally on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, or you can arrange a deal with a Magic Fest buyer or a large bulk vendor who will either come to you or you will arrange to meet them, like I did with that pallet, where I was just like, I emailed Channel ahead of time. I was like, hey, this is a lot of bulk rares. I'm going to be here. Make sure you have space for them on the plane ride back. And then I arranged that beforehand. So you do not want to just like roll up with that unannounced and have no one to drop it off to.
That's, I mean, I don't know how many people are... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Corbin.
Without getting too much into specifics, DJ, what can people expect if they're moving bulk rares to a vendor?
If you are very, very lucky and or charming, if you have a high charisma roll, then you can get 10 cents. The standard average is around 7 cents.
So here's actually something counterintuitive for like higher end stuff, right? You want to go to the bigger names, Channel Fireball, 95, Tales of Adventure, people that rolled up with a lot of money. They have a good reputation, you know. Like they're solid buyers and their buy list prices are competitive. If you are at a GP and you're dumping garbage, like bulk rares, like lots of bulk rares, talk to the local stores. They're more likely to pay 10 cents because they don't have the ins all the bigger dealers have. You know, and they came to this GP because like, this is our local event. We're going to spend a ton of money here. So they're more likely to have driven and therefore have the space in their vehicles to put like 5 rows worth of bulk rares in, whereas like vendors that are like flying back, they're like, no, we're not doing that. You know, that we're not going to take on a ton of bulk. So dealers that are more likely to have driven to the GP are more likely to take a larger size thing. So that's not going to be a thing for it. Was like, oh yeah, I'm always moving 900,000, bulk commons and uncommons or like basic land at GPs. If that's not you, but like you have a full 5 row full of like bulk rares, go to the local guys. They're more likely to pay a dime and they're more likely to take them and not be like, we flew, idiot, get that out of here. So
yeah, I mean, if you only have like 1,000 to 5,000 bulk rares, you should absolutely like package them out on some sort of smaller marketplace. You can always do like, you can get upwards of like a quarter or 50 cents per rare, assuming you ratio it correctly with other uncommons, or do like starter packs kind of thing, like around Christmas time.
I think that's a great idea.
You'll have plenty of parents looking to spend less than Walmart prices on Magic cards for their young ones. Yeah,
the way we did it at my LGS is I would put a D20 1,000 bulk cards, 20 rares, and I'd put in a couple that were worth $1 or $2, and some amount of like 50 basic lands or something, right? I could knock out one of those in 5 minutes or something, and then we'd sell them for $15 or $20, right? And they sold like crazy. We sold all of them, and for Christmas, we literally wrapped them up as Christmas gifts, put them out in the front of the store, and sold out in a couple of days. They're great, and that's the kind of thing, especially if you are somebody who's on, you got an active local Facebook group, something like that. If you post so let's say you have 100 rares and you're hoping to get a quarter, right? That's $25. So you say 100 rares plus extras, $50. I'll deliver it to your doorstep. Pandemic friendly. It'll just be sitting on your doorstep. Mm-hmm. That's probably a thing you have success with. If you make a standing Facebook marketplace ad of 100 magic rares, that's a thing. Or you can do smaller amounts. I know sort of the instant collection idea, right? Where people who want into the game are new or really excited about just getting new magic cards, eat that stuff up. So use whatever analogy you want, but the idea is that everything that you buy in a collection, everything that comes in has some amount of value. DJ talks about the D20s that you can sell on eBay for $5, but maybe they're not all that, but maybe you put that D20 and some rares and some basic lands and a bunch of other cards in a one row and you sell the thing for $20. And, look, you're dinking and dunking, but it all adds up,
Dinking and dunking? Thank you, DJ. I'm glad I'm not the only one that heard that. I was like, where is that?
This is so bizarre to me because Jason, y'all listening to the podcast won't know this. Jason and I just had an after-hours topic about sports, and then somehow the phrase dinking and dunking is lost on him. That's a thing,
is that a Sports Center thing, or is that an Oklahoma thing?
That's a football thing.
Okay. Guess who doesn't give
American
football. About football?
The two of you, I guess.
I'm like the NFL. I don't care about football players. Only I'm not fighting their concussions.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers it, and I have a lot of success too. And maybe this is just selling to a greater fool or whatever the terminology is. But I also have good success selling the actual bulk commons and uncommons after I've picked them for far above the rate, because Facebook Marketplace is a wonderful and terrible place to conduct business.
Yes.
But it does work.
Sometimes you have people that want to trade you an RC car or a gun, and sometimes you just get someone with a cooler full of stuff they shoplifted from Walmart. It's those two scenarios only.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
So it's pretty lucrative is what I'm saying.
All right, well, before we move on, we do want to give a shout out to our friends over at originalmagicart.store. We talk about them every week because we think it's a great place to be. We think it's great that they support artists. We think it's great that you can get playmats, prints, anything you want for the magic art lover in your life. And, without getting too into the weeds here, we got some exciting news here in the United States. The CDC announced this week that once people are fully vaccinated, sort of it's, quote unquote, safe in the eyes of the CDC to gather indoors with as many people as you want, no masks required. So this seems like it's a big deal. It's not a big deal yet, but it's the kind of thing where this is the first real concrete move we've had towards the future of paper magic becoming a reality again.
All right, so
I'm pretty excited.
Everyone's going to be too busy dry humping to play FNM. That's what I think.
Corbin abandoned the original Magic Art Store pitch, so I will pick up where he left off, like a good podcaster. So, if you're on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or AOL Messenger or any of those hot new things, you may have heard three letters put together recently called NFT. It's an anagram. The TLDR, because you're probably listening to this cast, you're at least 40 years old, and you're that sounds like it's not a thing.
It doesn't mean Neil Patrick Terrace. Don't say that on Twitter, or the Gen Z kids will make fun of you.
You are basically spending Byte coins and Doge coins and fart coins to buy the original print of a digital piece. Now, I know that just makes your head spin because you play Magic and you want to use physical cards. You touch them and they're real and they're not just imaginary like the numbers from that calculus class you failed a few years back. But
I retook it.
I didn't. I did not retake calculus, but if you want physical things, because again, you're a Magic player, you're a tactile person, originalmagicart.store is the place to be. They're not going to sell you a JPEG. They're going to sell you a physical thing that you can put on your wall forever.
That was a good pitch, DJ. I like that. You tied it into current events. That's how you do it. Everybody at home, take notes. And I'm actually going to pitch it right back to DJ to talk about, we've been talking about print runs tonight. Let's talk Time Spiral print run, because we've been talking a lot over, obviously, the past year about how the pandemic has affected prices. So we've had some people asking, and we want to dive into it again tonight and sort of lay it out, what the pandemic pricing world has looked like and how that might impact things with, for instance, Time Spiral Remastered. So what can we expect out of the Time Spiral printing run out of the next couple months, DJ?
Well, I mean, there's still no hard data. It's based on the current timeline. We should be getting the exact print run of Time Spiral Remastered around 30 years from now.
Yep.
based on precedent. But so the information we do have is that you can pre-order the boxes on Amazon, and someone was able to go to Amazon on one of the sellers and then hit $999 to add to their cart, and they were able to theoretically check out. I highly doubt they did, because that'd be over $100,000 spending wise. But like, you can do that, and the fact that you have that option means that the print run may be significantly larger than originally anticipated. So, like, I mean, previous examples of this, there's, like, if you had a limited print run product, like some wacky, crazy secret lair thing or something like that, you weren't able to add more than X to your cart, whereas there was somebody who was able to add 1,000 boxes to their cart, which may speak to the supply of the product and how much it will be opened. It kind of like, I guess Iconic Masters is the best analogy for that, where like up until Iconic, everyone was just like, oh, master sets be good, and you when you're allotted them, you buy all. Like that was right. I mean, all of us had LGSs at that point. And when Iconic Masters came out, it was like, oh yeah, of course, Iconic Masters comes out, you ask how much can I get, and then you say all of it. Like it's like the Ron Swanson bit from Parks and Rec. Like, give me. I'm all afraid the you didn't
hear me. Give me all the.
Yeah, give me all the master sets you have. And then Iconic came out, and they're like, yeah, you can have 7,000 boxes. And then Iconic Masters prices were seriously depressed for a while. And I think this might be a similar situation where everyone was looking at this and thinking it was this super, super exclusive thing, and it may not be as such.
Is it true? I mean, this makes sense then, that just because it is called remastered does not mean it is a master's set.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Wizards naming conventions being as they are.
Yeah, that is, I think, maybe a detail that a lot of people just haven't really thought about much yet, but it matters very much if it's, a print to demand, because we could have a lot of demand 3-4 months from now, right? We don't know what the world's going to look like this summer into the fall. But if there's ton of this out there, then it might very much affect those prices. But let's talk, we're looking forward to a bright future, but in the meantime, we have incredibly expensive cards, crazy price movements from the past year. So let's take it from the top here. For anybody, this might be a refresher to some of you, and might be some of you hearing this for the first time. But why have prices done what they've done in the pandemic? What are the factors that are pandemic specific that have gone into the pricing of Magic?
I'm gonna let Jason take this one, but just beforehand, if you're listening to this and this is the first time you're hearing us talk about this, you're my favorite person. Yes, you. Like, if this is not a rerun for you, you are awesome, because that means you found us on YouTube or some other weird place that JJ posts the podcast to, and that means that you haven't been here for 400 episodes, and you're a new listener, and that means I appreciate you. Heart emoji. Take it away, Jason.
Now, you were super nice to him. Now I feel like I gotta be mean. Hey, idiot. Way to not pay attention. I'm sorry. That's rude. There are a lot of different factors that have gone into the crazy inflation of prices. And it's not just Magic the Gathering specific. We thought Logan Paul was to blame for the fact that Pokemon stuff is going nuts. And while Logan Paul is human garbage that I do want to see get punched in the face by NHL superstar Evander Kane, who has a history of giving people concussions, as much as I would like to see that no respect showing in a Japanese forest idiot, he's not 100% to blame, because if you look at the price of sports cards, all sorts of collectibles, they're going nuts in the pandemic. Why? Well, one factor is the stimmy checks.
Mm-hmm.
People who were totally boned were not saved at all by the stimulus checks. Like, if you're totally boned, you are still boned with $1,200 less debt on your credit card that you're using to buy food. You're screwed still. But if you're fine, you are more fine. You have $1,200 on top of being fine. And people are like, I'm going to put this in the bank for a rainy day. Just kidding. I'm going to go buy that Joker and Harley Quinn Funko Pop, and I'm going to get my X back, or whatever you spent the $1,200 on, right? So people are spending their stimmy checks, and they're stimulating the Magic marketplace, which is great for me because I'm selling $21 copies of Mirage bulk rares. We did it. So there's like people having the influx of cash has been good. This also coincided with a Bitcoin boom. All the dumb GameStop stuff was going on around the same time. Like, people are cashing out of their coins. They want a safer place to sock money away. Magic reserve list cards are a little bit less volatile. So people are like, hey, this seems less volatile than my coins. I'm going to cash out of some of my coins. And that was all free money that I got just committing my computer to do like teraflops of calculations while I slept, or just buying coins when everyone else was fearful. Who knows how people got all these coins, but they're cashing out of their coins.
Yeah, so the last piece to this Millennium Puzzle would be that I have been sitting at home for close to a year now. It's coming up on the exact day, I think, close to it, that like Detroit was canceled, Magic Fest Detroit. Like, I was 12 hours away from driving to Detroit, and then Channel Fireball hit send on that tweet and said, no more Detroit, no more GPs ever. So we are approaching that year, which means we have been a full year of cards not being added to the supply, through that revenue, through that avenue of just Magic players just going to events, dumping all their stuff to big name vendors, and then those vendors, like the Star City circuit hasn't been around for a year. All these huge, even just PTQ level events, these cards weren't being listed online on TCG Player, on facets like eBay and Star City and Channel Fireball, which means that they have to increase their prices to keep up supply, and then they have to increase their buy prices to keep the cards in stock. And it's just this cyclical thing that ends up with you begrudgingly hitting accept on a buy card with a $40 Cyclonic Rift.
Yeah, well, and the fourth factor here, and this is, less wide and more specific to Commanders, look at the price of something like Cabal Coffers. It's just unreal what's happened to cards that were already staples in the format. But the combination of the year of Commander and the fact that the only Magic anyone could really play over the past year has been Commander. Either they play at home with a friend or two, I know that 4-person pods, bubble pods, whatever you want to call them, are somewhat common among people who've decided that this is what they're going to do, and they're just going to play Commander with their friends, or they're playing on webcam with their friends. What they're not doing is playing Modern. They're not going to F&M and playing Standard. They're playing Commander. That's it. And that's the perfect storm with the other things these guys have mentioned that has led to, $100 Cabal Coffers or whatever the heck the card's worth now, right? That's just, and the really interesting thing is that because Commander has done so well over the past 5 years and supplanted anything else as the most popular Magic format, and the fact that Wizards is continuing to push it, I don't know that we see sort of a snapback once we have events again. Let's say 6 months from now, they're doing, stores are able to run events again, F&M or something. I don't know that we see a drop in those prices necessarily. I think things are tail off or whatever, but I don't think we're going back to 2019 Commander card prices without, reprints, etc., actually bringing the price down. I don't think that's just naturally going to snap back. So it's going to be an interesting time, following it. We've been talking about this for a year, just about what sort of the next domino to fall was. And it was reserve lists and Commander. And we've seen it just continue to grow on itself, and it's just going to keep up. So it is certainly an interesting time, but that is there's your 5-minute explanation as to why Cabal Coffers is $100. And spoilers, my pick of the week is going to be a Modern staple that is $2. And it's just a different world that we live in these days. All right. So the next thing we want to briefly talk about here is sort of the baseline expectations we have for Strixhaven. We know of course, about the 5 houses of the Hogwarts or whatever it's called. We know that we're going to get plenty more in the future. So we don't really know what's going to come. But in the interest of talking about it way too early, a la Lovisa Cold Eyes, Jason, what kind of archetypes are you expecting to see as far as Commander goes from these 5 guilds or houses or whatever we're calling them?
Thank you for throwing it to me, Corbin. I had a whole segment planned, and now I'm so distracted by the fact that she called the school Hogwarts? Was Dick Herpes taken as a school name for children? Was Schlong Bumps? It's like, I couldn't get the domain schlongbumps.com. I guess we'll call it Hogwarts. Jesus Christ. The 5 schools of totally not Harry Potter, each have their own thing, and you're like, oh, they're really going to explore the space and give each of these 2-color combinations some stuff they've never gotten before. Incorrect. This is all the same old shit from the same old cards, but predictability is predictability, and what we like in finance is predictability, right? We don't care that they're not giving us super duper new stuff, because we can make money based on just predicting what they're going to do. And if they're going to be boring, cool. Making money on MTG Finance is boring, you know? Like, buying stuff for $1 that you can sell for $3 is boring, you know? Hitting on a spec, not great, but just buying every shitty wizard that isn't even that good and just being like, oh, people think there's going to be Wizard Tribal and there isn't. Yeah, everyone who sold a Bitter Blossom for like $55 when they announced the Throne of Eldraine is thrilled to be bored by their gains.
That's right.
So we're going to talk about how, like, the only 5 cards we know from Strixhaven tell us an awful lot about what I think is going to be the basis of the Commander decks, and what can we expect to kind of pop going forward.
All right. So let's start then with Silverquil. This is black-white. It returns creatures from the graveyard. It pumps creatures. It draws life. It does 4 very generic black-white abilities.
Well,
what do you
giving
think?
Creatures 3/3 and flying, that's like mono white, right?
Mm-hmm. That's an Elspeth thing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Corbin doesn't remember Divine Transformation from Alpha, or was that Legends and then 4th edition? Whatever. It's kind of a white thing, but yeah.
It's an Elspeth thing.
Silverquill's not really given us anything we haven't seen before in black and white, and the fact that, like, you make somebody sacrifice a creature, or you're drawing a card and losing a life, or returning a creature with CMC2. Oh, sorry, MV2? Jeez, I'm never
yeah, we're gonna have to figure that one out.
I'm too old to be. I'm too. I went along with CMC, right? Like, I was like, cool, okay, I'll say it. But like, now it's MV, whatever.
I have no issues with mana value, but not saying CMC is kind of rough, actually.
Yeah, there's probably a podcast called the CMC Mana Company or something like that, and they're like screwed now. Sorry about your podcast, CMC Mana Company. Look, I think all of these are kind of Teysa Karlov abilities. I would look at Teysa Karlov decks, because my prediction is that these commands are from a dragon, and the dragon is going to be the centerpiece of the 5 EDH decks. So I kind of think that we're going to get a very Teysa Karlov-esque dragon to be the head of Silverquil, just based on what the command does. So I think if you look at Teysa Karlov, or maybe another Saki deck, like every other Teysa,
it's all aristocrats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aristocratic type stuff. So just go to EDH Rec and look for all the Teysas, and aristocrats is actually a theme. So if you go to the themes tab on EDH Rec and look for aristocrats, the cards that are in that deck, I think, are probably going to be pretty good, because like, you're going to be sacking some value creature with like Afterlife, and bringing it back with a Silverquil command. So I think that's where I would look. Prismari is a little bit tougher, this seems like the kind of utility command you really want. It costs as much as a charm, but it does command stuff. I really like Prismari, but it really throws me off a little bit. I don't think there's any one deck in Izzet you can look at and say, oh, this is the stuff that's going to go up. This is just a very generic, good command. I really like it. So it doesn't give us any information. So if we move on to Witherbloom, I think Witherbloom, you probably want to, as much as like we've been steered towards green-black elves a ton recently, Witherbloom makes me think this is going to be more old school Golgari. This is going to be Marin.
It looks very Golgari, milling things, destroying things, etc. Right? Like it's just clearly seems to be even the name Witherbloom, right? Kind of makes it seem like it's probably going to be about life and death, the typical green-black thing.
Yeah, and this is solid too. It's 2 mana, and you can blow up enchantments and stuff. Like, non-creature, non-land mode on that's real cool. So, like, I would look at your green-black graveyard matters type stuff. You know, Marin and maybe some of like the 3-color, like your Sultai or Abzan EDH decks for stuff that I think is going to get played, but I think the green-black deck is going to be very graveyard focused. Lorehold, same kind of deal. This doesn't seem to be any new stuff for Boros, and every Boros deck is the same. So like, I would actually look at stuff that's played across all Boros decks. You know, you're creating a spirit, a 3/2 red and white spirit creature kind of threw me a little bit. Like this is kind of some new stuff. Potentially, like it seems like red white makes creature stuff with enchantments and does it repeatably, so like doing it as an instance kind of weird. But this just seems like a hodgepodge of like cards that are red or white throughout Magic's history, and it doesn't really tell us anything about what decks to look at. So I guess just look at stuff that doubles tokens, or just don't build a Boros deck because that's.
I mean, or just ignore Boros and Commander like always, right? But not the worst idea.
And then Quandrix, kind of tells us that potentially we could see a dragon with a +1/+1 counter theme, which again is kind of old hat for this color combination, Simic. But like, I don't hate it. I kind of think you have a lot to go on. You have your Voral the Hullclade and your Peer and Toothy decks, and you have a bunch of Hydras that double counters. And I kind of think if the dragon whose name is Quandrix or came up with the name Quandrix, I don't even know. It's just like whatever this green blue dragon that I assume is going to be the head of the house. I kind of think a +1/+1 counter theme is heavily forecast, and then everything else it seems like just a really decent utility card. I really like Quandrix Command a lot, actually. It does a lot of stuff you want to be doing in those decks. So I would look at Teysa Karlov, I would look at Marin, and I would look at Peer Toothy / Voral the Hellclade. Some of the other decks you can't really glean much information from these 5 cards, but I kind of think I would start looking at the stuff that gets played in those decks on top of just generic wizard stuff. So I think all of that kind of moves just on hype alone, but everybody's distracted by Time Spiral right now.
Yeah, and we will very quickly be turning the corner, I think, into Strixhaven. I'm not sure of the release date or anything like that, but as far as spoiler season goes, we're going to be very quickly moving into it. But right now, we're going to move into Pick of the Week.
Pick of the Week, Pick of the Week, Pick of the Week. Time for the Pick of the Week.
As a reminder, any of the picks we make here on Pick of the Week, you can find on mtgstocks.com. We've talked about it every week, how this is essentially how I make all of my picks. I look at the 1%, 2%, 3% weekly gainers on MTG Stocks to find the things I think are going to move. And you can use the interest page. You can use it in the United States. You can use it in Europe. You can use market price. You can use median price. You can separate out foils. It has basically every lever you would want to pull. And one of the most useful ways that I use MTG Stocks weekly is when I'm picking bulk and I see that I have a bunch of bulk from one set. I'll just pull up the page for MTG Stocks of that set, sort by price, by common and uncommon, and I can see right then in an easy list what the 5 to 10 cards I'm looking to pick are. And it just makes it so much faster, and it's a very, very useful tool. So with that said, I'm going to jump into my pick of the week. I teased it earlier, but the card Glimmervoid, I want to let you all know, peaked at $45 5 years ago, okay? more recently, the card kind of was around the $10 mark. But right now, Glimmer Void, after being in double masters, has bottomed out at $2.
It also,
which is wild to
got
me.
Power creeped.
It certainly probably did, and I don't know that Glimmer Void is ever going to be $10 or $20 again, but it does seem to have bottomed out and is now risen a couple percentage points up from about $1.50 to about $2.25 over the course of 2021, which means I don't know how high it's going to go. I don't know what Modern's going to look like when the format comes back, and if Glimmer Void is played, it'll probably be $10 again if there's a big rush to play Modern, but it may have just been power creeped out of the format. But either way,
I don't think so,
it is a card at its bottom.
I've played enough robots to know that like Glimmer Void is almost, if only in that one deck.
Yeah. Well, and it's almost always a combo deck, right? It's Glimmer Void tends to be a 4 of when it's played, because it is a deck that wants, that's doing unfair things and is using Glimmer Void to power them. So at $2, it's just really hard to go wrong for a card with such a pedigree.
Sweet.
I will go for a $2 Theros Beyond Death card that you may have never heard of. Terror of Mount Velis. It's a dragon from one of the extra products from Theros Beyond Death. It's one of those cards that like is 264 out of 245 or whatever for the set number.
Right.
And it has every casual player's dream written on it. This is a 7 mana 5/5 flying double strike. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain double strike till end of turn.
It's a Dargon.
It is a Dargon. It's got all the correct words on it to be like a $5 or $7 card a year or two down the line. Once the supply dries up, which is, I assume, not much, considering it's already a couple dollars. And I just expect this to be a card that no one has heard of, and I think it'll still be a card no one has heard of when it's $5 or $7.
This seems like a great pick because it's the same thing, looking at the graph on MTG stocks here. At the beginning of the year, this was more like $1.50, $2, and now it's sort of climbed up to $2.75 or so. It's exactly you're exactly right. It's got all the makings of a card that doubles up quietly, and then people take notice, and it's $10.
Well, it's already doubled up. It's $2.85 on TCG Player, but it's already $5.50 on Card Kingdom, which is where EDH cards sell out first. This is the 77th most played card in the set, which doesn't sound great, but it's right after Labyrinth of Scophos, and it's above Timoret and Eat to Extinction and Alter the Pantheon. So like, there are a ton of EDH cards in this set. This is in the top 80, which doesn't sound great, but like there are a ton of EDH playable cards play less than this. And the fact that it's twice as much on Card Kingdom as it is on TCG Player makes me think that Card Kingdom is kind of the canary in the coal mine when it comes to cards going from $3 to $7, and everyone's like, "Whoa, when did that happen?"
That's a good point.
This is a card I didn't even know about, but like looking at it, I really, numbers wise, I like everything about it.
Yeah. All right, Jason.
Well, mine's on the basis of Quandrix Command. I really think Master Biomancer is way underpriced right now. Master
How
Biomancer,
much has that been reprinted, Jason? Because that's a mythic in its original printing, right?
Yeah, and it was printed in Commander 2016 and Commander Anthology Volume 2, which is the exact same printings as my Breaking Bulk. Commander 2016 and Commander Anthologies too. I think they were in the same deck, but on the basis of I think Quandrix would be throwing around some 1/1 counters. I think Master Biomancer is a really just disgusting card to throw a couple 1/1 counters on, and then everything that comes into play gets 4 1/1 counters or 5 1/1 counters.
Yeah, because
if you pump your Biomancer, so
yeah,
the fact that this is under $5, as a mythic that was originally printed in Gatecrash is just it's non-correct, and the price is basically at its all-time low, and I think there's nowhere to go but up if Quandrix gives it anything at all.
I almost picked this when I picked Foro the Hulk Lane. It was between those two, and I was like, I'll just pick Foro.
This card is very powerful too, right? At 4 mana with a Mana Dork or even a Rampant Growth, it comes down on turn 3, and then each other creature in his battlefield with number of counters on it equal to with a number of additional +1 counters on it equal to Master Biomancer's power, and is a mutant, if that matters. So, yeah, you're right. This card is, not only does it have an attractive looking graph, it is very powerful. And I don't know how much to put into Commander Anthology printings. But my take is probably not a ton at this point. And Commander 2016 is a long time ago by now.
I consider it maybe like
pick.
a fifth of a printing.
Yeah, that is a great pick. All right, well, I think that wraps it up for us. We are off to stream, everybody. You can catch that at twitch.tv/Brainstorm Brewery. As a reminder, you can follow us on YouTube. You can go to patreon.com/BSB. There, if you want to support us via Patreon, you can. If you want to support us for free, follow us on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.